Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar from International Rental News Magazine, one of a series of webinars that we've been running over the last 18 months. My name is Murray Pollok. I'm the managing editor of International Rental News, and I'm happy to be hosting this event today when we're going to be discussing rental software developments and rental software with three experts in the field. Before I introduce them, I would like to thank our supporters today. So we have Machine Max, who's a telematics provider, Lawson's Recruitment, and also Dingley, the aerial platform manufacturer. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it very much. So let me now introduce our three panelists, and I'll switch to the gallery mode so that you can see them all. So we have Glenn Pearson. Glenn is product manager at Point of Rental, responsible for the Syrinx 365 and Rented Online platforms. Glenn has been in the rental business for many years in Europe, created actually his own rental software platform, which is now part of the Point of Rental group. Next, we have Nick Thomson. Nick is the sales director of MCS Rental Software based in the UK. They have rental installations all over the world. Nick's worked for MCS for 30 years, I think it is, which is a long time, Nick. And he's been the sales director for 9 of those years, the past 9 years. And we're also happy to have Bengt Rotheim. Bengt is, I think he's coming to us today from Oslo in Norway. He's the owner and the CEO of Armada Dynamics. They also have installations all over the world. Bengt is a 20-year veteran of the rental software business and is still the product manager for Armada's EQM rental product. Okay, so before I ask the first question of the panelists, I just want to ask the audience if you have any questions at all, then please do ask questions using the Q&A button at the bottom. I'll be monitoring that throughout the session. I can ask questions through the session or at the end if we have some time at the end. Try not to use the chat button to ask questions. I may not be looking at that, but I will be looking at the Q&A button. So feel free to ask questions at any time. So let's get started. I suppose one of the things we're going to be addressing is how the rental software industry has adapted to this general trend that we're seeing towards digitalization in the rental sector. So maybe we just start by stepping back and asking, why is this digitalization process happening? Glenn, let's start with you.
Well, I myself, I'm not long out of the equipment rental industry, having primarily worked in powered access for 16 years. And I think one of the reasons I see is that margins in the equipment rental industry are just getting tighter and tighter. The cost of equipment is increasing, the cost of employing people is increasing, but rental rates still decline, and equipment that cost a certain price 15 years ago costs a lot more today, but yet the rental rate is a lot less today than it was 15 years ago. So rental companies are having to find ways of finding different efficiencies, and that can be through either digitizing some of the processes or capturing data and using that data to make data-driven decisions to find efficiencies, because they need to do this to make the business sustainable.
Thank you, Glenn. Bengt?
Yeah, a lot of the same, of course, and the way they can improve their work processes, work faster, have more, secure that the data that they enter is correct. They have more access to data, like customer information. When you sign up new customers, it's easier to find or do like customer evaluations. The same with equipment, you get a lot of information related to that equipment. But also the fact that people are getting new employees and younger employees, and to keep the clever people, you need to give them some good tools, and that's where we come in play, I guess.
Okay, so technology as a recruitment drive. Yeah, I see what you mean. It makes the industry a bit more glamorous. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, that's an interesting point Bengt made there in terms of the people coming into the industry or into sort of the young generations coming through. That also reflects in the customers. So the customer expectation for the rental companies is higher in terms of digital. They want to be interacting with them in a digital way. So that expectation is driving companies to get their digitization up to speed, so they don't lose any business from not being the people who can electronically trade with these customers. So, and again, I'll agree, improving efficiency has got to be one of the big ones here. It's a lot of paper in these businesses that can just be sort of eradicated and efficiencies brought through process.
Yeah, I suppose if you can track your £10 Amazon delivery, you should be able to track the delivery of a 60-foot boom, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
So you've touched on a lot of the issues that surrounds digitalization of the rental business, and what I'm interested in finding out from you is how that has impacted on the rental software companies. Let's stick with you, Nick.
Yeah, so what it's done for us, it's made us think differently in terms of the things that we need to be helping the rental companies with. So what I've seen quite a lot is the rental companies have moved quite a lot into service provision as well as just the traditional equipment hire. There's now a lot of things that go around that people are proud to put out there to their customers to be able to help them with. So we're looking at tools to help them with that whole resource planning. There's people now, there's other vehicles other than just the traditional sort of equipment that they need to bring efficiencies to, be able to plan, be able to make sure they understand availability. So we're seeing more of that type of thing in the product at the moment.
It adds a bit of pressure to you, doesn't it?
It's nice. It brings some change, doesn't it? So it means that we're evolving and we're helping work with the companies to get away from the maybe some stagnant software in the previously the industry sort of stood with let's raise contracts, let's raise invoices. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. Let's now digitize these other places in the business.
Glenn, what about you?
Yeah, I think as a technology company, we're always conscious of new trends, not only within our own industry, the rental industry, but within other industries. And I think because the development of software generally can take such a long time to develop it and test it, we often find ourselves developing features and functionality long before some of the customers have really asked for it, or maybe even envisaged using it. Or people don't like change, but if you give them something that works, that's easy to use, makes their life easier, they will learn to like it really quickly. And we're confident in doing that because within our team we have a great mix of technology experts and people that have come out of the rental industry. So we're finding that we're many times making stuff in advance of people actually requesting it or requesting the specific details of it.
I'm going to come to you on this in a second, Bengt, but Glenn, I'm just wondering if you could characterize this change, this trend for adding digital processes around the world. Are you seeing it predominantly in Western Europe, or is it North America? Who's leading the way here?
I would say it's happening everywhere. Perhaps in Europe, there has been a little bit more demand, perhaps earlier, from what I've seen. But I would say it's pretty common across the globe, and I think it's important what Nick said earlier, that the younger generation is coming on board. None of us here grew up with smartphones in our hands. The first iPhone, I think, was sold in this time, June, I think, 2007. And, there's a whole generation coming into the workforce pretty soon that actually grew up with smartphones. They've had it all their lives. We've only had to learn to adapt to use them. And I think that's probably driving it as well. And that's why it's global.
And so, Bengt, how has it impacted on you, this drive towards the digitalization?
I think a lot of it has been moving like processes from computers to tablets or phones, making it available to the people at the place where they actually do their work. We have seen more like getting information and providing information to other software as well. Providing data to like any kind of users, also administration and everybody, that they can access the data that they have where they are, and so you can sit in your sofa back home and seeing your utilization on the screen on your iPad. So that's a lot of those things that's going on right now.
And has it accelerated the development times that you're having to go through? Maybe in the old days, everything was a bit more static and you could take your time over developing new products. Maybe now the cycle time is you have to be a bit faster on your feet. Does that happen?
Yeah, I would say that's the case right now. Things are happening very fast, and there's no way for you to relax on anything, because now you got to be on top all the time.
Yeah. I've been reporting on the rental software sector for a number of years, and I always remember this distinction that was drawn between the ERP, the wide, large system, and then the pure specialist rental software systems with the added on kind of best of breed packages. Is that debate as relevant now as it always has been, Nick?
Yeah, I think the debate is still very relevant, and I think there are a number of factors really that would decide on the best route for a rental company. I don't think there's a sort of a one size fits all in this. There's some companies whose primary business isn't rental. Rental's a part of that business, and therefore the ERP is driven by the major part of the business, and the rental then has to come along either then as a compromise in a lesser functional piece of software, or a good integration with a specialist software provider, which then gives them the best of both worlds. So I think the idea here is to make sure that we consult well with the people that are looking for these systems, and we understand what is the best solution for them based on the factors that are available.
And it is, just to follow up on that, is the size of the business important in making that decision? Is it traditional that the larger companies would go for the ERP and the smaller would go for the specialist with best of breed? Is that
that's perhaps where the discussion gets a bit more detailed, in that for me, if it's a big company who specializes in rental, then a rental software provider can provide I believe the best system for that. If there's a big requirement for a fully integrated finance system and the finance is driving that, then it probably would be the ERP with the finance attached to it that would be sort of the one that they'd steer towards. Sometimes you've got to look at these things in a large rental company. By far the biggest number of users are going to be the rental users, the end users, and the back office users. There'd be less of them. So what do you do? What drives what in the demand for which system you go for there? So sometimes it's an easy decision or an easier decision. Other times there's more detailed discussion to be had.
Yeah, I'm conscious, obviously, that the three of you will have your own angle on this, and it will be to some degree self-serving, and I mean that in the best possible way. But Glenn, can I ask you the same question?
In a way, software is like people. Nobody's an expert on everything, and software is similar in the sense that it can only do what it was built to do, and certain systems are built to do or to build with a very narrow focus. I think if you go back 15 or 20 years ago, companies like ours focus purely on the basic rental aspect of the business. Have a hire contract, know where the machine is, know when it's due back, and manage the rental rates. And typically 15, 20 years ago, we only integrated with a few accounting solutions. But as the rental industry evolved over the last 15, 20 years, our customers wanted more functionality, and they typically found that rental software companies like ours were more flexible in that regard than them trying to approach an accounting solution provider. So our products evolved more and more in the last 15, 20 years. And I think the result of that is that we offer a whole lot more functionality than we traditionally did in the past. So I feel the best of breed approach will continue. I think, you know, all of our companies here today will offer various modules and different functionality that we didn't in the past. And I don't necessarily see the trend that the much larger companies are going more towards the ERP solution. You know, I think sometimes when people are picking a software solution, they can perhaps get too hung up on the whole accounting financial side of it. But what we need to remember is that everything begins with a sale. You don't have anything to account if you don't rent any product. So, you know, the front end of the system is very important. Having a good CRM, being able to do your quotations, track them, follow them, and everything begins with a sale.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any easy answer on this question. I think it's a valid thing still, and I would think to some extent that is related to the size and also how much of that business is rental. But I don't have no problem seeing that standalone solutions will still be good players in this game. But of course, our opinion would be that our solution is built on a top-notch ERP solution, and we have then also specialists building rental software embedded in this solution, so that you have less duplication of data. You know, all those things has always been said. So. But it's kind of like it's a little bit of a political thing for the customer as well. You know, what they believe in and their focus.
Can I ask the three of you? I'm guessing there's lots of competition to get good software engineers, IT specialists. Is that a problem for you to find the right people? Are you having to, and in general, are you recruiting more people than you might have in the past? And stay with you, Bengt.
Yeah, we're recruiting all the time now, at least doing our best to do so. It is ERP solutions in general are doing well in Norway and Europe, so it's good competition to get people, of course. But so yeah, and things are moving faster, you know, like you said before. So yeah, we have a good demand for new people, and searching that all we can.
Nick?
Yeah, we've got
to find people.
Yeah, we've got a good recruitment drive at the minute in all areas. The development side is a challenge, because what's happening is the technology we put the technology stack is a change in place. So you've got mobile, you've got web, you've got your Windows backend, and developers don't generally come with all of those skills. So you're trying to find developers in particular skills, and so you're refining your requirements as you do it. So yeah, it can be a challenge finding the right people, and also, you know, embedding them then into the rental industry, because that's an industry itself to learn. Even if you're a developer, you want to try and understand the processes that are involved in there. And
Glenn, what about point of rentals experience?
Yeah, like we're recruiting a lot of people at the moment. Every day on our intranet, I see new employees being introduced into various different teams. Within point of rental, we have distinct teams for different products, and different, you know, teams for mobile, and different teams for APIs, and different teams for each of the products. But all of those teams, as far as I can see, are growing.
I want to go on and ask about some of the functionality that you're really being asked for now. But before I do that, I just I was going to ask about rental companies themselves being more tech savvy, maybe employing their own IT manager. In the past, they might have been inclined to outsource things, but now they have a bit more internal expertise. Is that a good thing for rental software companies, or does it add complication? I'll ask you, Bengt. And would you recommend rental companies to have a dedicated IT expert, Bengt?
I don't see it as a problem. I think it's a good thing, because it makes it easier. You know, then we have somebody at at the customer side that understands the way that we work as well. So I don't see that as a challenge, actually. But I also think that as things move as fast as it does for right now, I think it will be difficult for a rental company to be on top of all the stuff that happens in IT. I think it's better to purchase or acquire those services from the companies which are actually doing that.
Yeah, Glenn?
Yeah, I don't think we're noticing an increasing trend of rental companies employing more IT specialists. You know, of course, some of the very large rental companies will have IT departments, but most rental companies prefer to work with providers like ourselves who have a wide experience and can, you know, advise them on best practices and current trends and so on.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is that there's a definite sort of shift away from the technical IT staff. You know, let's get another company to look after the technical side. But some of the businesses are taking on what I would sort of say a business process IT people. So they understand IT, they understand the business, they're within the business, and they can almost be the go-between between this is what the software can do, this is what the business needs, and trying to help map that, which we can help them with. But them being embedded in the business really does make that a more successful story normally, because they can help to drive their end of the sort of processes that need to be done.
Okay, thank you. We have a question that's come in, and it's for all of the panelists. The question was asked in the chat, which I've seen, which is fine, but if you do have a question, try and use the Q&A button. But the question is, the need for digital communication with the rental company is increasing. Is that statement valid in B2C, business to consumer, and also in business to business? Does anyone want to take that question? I suppose digital communication means with customers.
I think there's definitely an increasing demand for e-commerce functionality. You know that more and more rental companies now are wanting to be able to offer their products and services online, and to facilitate their customers being able to order them online and to pay by credit card online. So I think there's definitely an increasing trend in that direction.
Yeah, I would add to that and just say that, you know, without making us all look too old, that young generation point again is, you know, if you imagine somebody wants to do something in their house or in their job, they're probably going to go on YouTube, look at a video, how do I do it? They're going to probably then go and look online for where they can get the equipment. They're probably going to order it online, and they could do that whole thing. They could look at some reviews to find out if it's the right place to go to get the equipment. So there's a different way that people are dealing with companies now, and I think that will go into B2B as well. I think that will actually happen.
Okay, Bengt, did you want to say anything there, or?
That's pretty much the same, but also, you know, with the new technology, being able to, you know, signing stuff on sending SMSs when you get to notify of everything, and emails and whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of communication now going back and forth between both like end customers and also business customers. Yeah.
Okay, so let's drill down a little into what functionality your customers are, you know, not the bread and butter stuff, the things that they really are wanting now that they maybe didn't want 2 years ago or even a year ago. Let's start with you, Glenn.
I think we see a wide variety of requests, but, you know, if we were to talk about the more frequent ones or the more regular ones, it would obviously be telematics, e-signatures, and increasingly so, we're seeing more on requests on the sales side, so interactive web portals, e-commerce, and some way of capturing feedback from their customers, you know, about the customer experience and if they were satisfied with the product, the service, and so on. that's definitely on the increase.
Nick?
Yes, so Glenn's covered a few topics there, which I would totally agree with in terms of those points. Going back to a bit on the resource management that I talked about earlier, this is about the mobile and putting, I think Ben touched on it as well, and putting devices in people's hands that maybe didn't have it before. So your drivers, your people in the yard, in the warehouse doing your picking, your workshop engineers, salespeople definitely. So it's really being pushed to put more and more information to the people at the right place, right time. That's definitely a drive.
And Nick, is it customer facing or internal? What's the focus?
It's actually initially customer focus sort of drove these things, and that was the thing that people sort of thought about initially, but they're now seeing that there's a lot of internal processes which are paper-based or not efficient, and therefore the mobile technologies work internally as well. And that has definitely been a demand or a change in the thought process, I think, in that it's not just customer facing.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we also see a lot of course, a lot of what has already been said, but we also have more demand for like project management in rentals. Like if they have bigger jobs, projects, they want to have better or easier ways of scheduling both equipment and resources. Estimating the cost of the jobs, and also cost consumption, like going out on when the customer or the workers go out and do work, they're using their phones to register hours, parts they spend, and all those things make that make that easier for everybody, and all the way back to administration as well.
Can I ask you, if you're dealing with a rental customer, no doubt you immediately after a few meetings, you figure out whether this is going to be an easy implementation or a difficult implementation. Can you tell me, what is it that makes an implementation easy? How can rental companies make it easy for you to do things quickly for them in terms of the way they manage their assets, the way they run their business, the way they keep their records? What makes it easy, Glenn?
I think it might be easier to answer what makes it difficult. I think if somebody is going to take the step, if a rental company is going to take the step to implement a new rental software or apps or whatever, they should also be willing to look at their processes, and reevaluate them. And probably the most difficult implementation is where somebody rigidly wants to bring all of their habits of the last 10, 15 years into a whole new way of doing things. But if somebody is open to look at best practices and look at new technologies and see how things can be done differently now, that makes it easier.
Thanks.
Yeah, a lot of the same actually. I think if the customer is able to kind of look out of the box, think a little bit out of the box, or outside the box, being open to look at how things can be done in a different way, and not try to duplicate whatever they did in the solution they had before, because if you're getting a new solution, things will be different, and duplicating the processes that you had can be expensive, and maybe not the best, or in most cases not the best way of doing it. So so if you're open-minded to look into different ways of doing things, that's a good thing for a customer.
Yeah, I guess it's difficult to get a company to change the way it actually does things, not just introduce new technology, but change the processes themselves. Nick, what's your advice to rental companies?
Yeah, I think we've all been doing this, running rental software for many years, and so we've got lots of companies and experience and anecdotes to hopefully describe why the practices that we have in our software and the process we have in our software is a process that will work for a rental company, because it's been tried and tested many times. It can be a challenge to persuade that, but that is the fact. That often it's the people that we need to get on side more than the software. It's people to want to change and be able to enable that change, and to deal with that. We've got masses of experience in doing that, so we can help and guide that sort of change as well.
I suppose one key area there is to produce quick benefits. Where can you produce quick benefits for a customer?
Because that depends on an individual basis. You know, part of the sort of discovery and going through the process with the customer is to identify where perhaps their biggest pains are, where the wins can be, and then which ones can be quick and which ones maybe be longer, and then planning those out and making sure that they're understood. And going back to the people thing, you know, we can all put resources in. We've all got resources in our businesses. They need to be able to put some resource in to help get the system into the business. So that's a key. A key for me would be to, you know, ensure that somebody is resourced enough to help get the system in from the customer side.
Glenn, Bengt, any quick wins you see?
I think one of the most important things would be training. You know, invest time and money in training. That probably one of the quick fixes. You know, enable your users to do their work in new software, and then that will help a lot.
Glenn, anything to add?
I think having meaningful dashboards and reports, you know, I think there's a difference between overloading someone with a pile of data and actually giving them a piece of information that points them in the right direction. And I think if you can provide good reporting or dashboards to a rental company, you will get buy-in a lot quicker, because they can see, okay, if I put the effort in, this is the information I'm going to get back out.
Okay. We've got some questions, and there's one here which is, you know, slightly provocative, so take it in the right way. Do you, as rental software developers, think that you know the processes better than rental companies? So, Nick, I'll give that one to you.
Thanks. Yes. I mean, the way that we push our product forward is in a very collaborative way. So, you know, if you talk to any of the MCS customers, most of our development is driven by our customers and driven by demand from either the customers individually, or it'll be a collective through our user group who would come to us with the challenges. Now, we're the ones who are responsible for technology, so we often are ahead in technology and what we think is the next technical thing that we need to be available. But they're more often than not, they're giving us the processes that they feel need to be developed. So we would definitely a collaborative approach rather than us thinking we can. Yeah. One thing I don't want is a product that I can't then put out into the marketplace. So if I've got customers who have a demand for it, that's much better for me.
Yeah. Thanks.
The rental companies know their business best, of course, no doubt about it. But this, you know, the same. Our solutions have been built on customer experience for many years, and sometimes it makes full sense to make things different for the customer, and sometimes maybe it can be just as well or nice to do it not differently, but maybe in like a different sequence or whatever, and it's still doing the same thing. It's just not the way you did it in the former system.
Yeah.
And so, but of course, the rental companies, they're the best. They know their business.
Glenn?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what Bengt said. And I personally, I've spent a hell of a lot more time in the rental industry than I have in software. But one thing I've seen since I've come into the software side of the business is that all of our customers and even potential customers are sharing their processes and thoughts with us. So we're getting a great insight into a wide range of rental companies. You know, and if we could really do a great job, we'd go and take the best ideas and processes from all of those and put them into the ideal solution.
Yeah. There are some other questions I'm going to ask. What is the applicability of AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning in rental? If so, what are some of the key use cases customers in rental are asking for? So that's the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Who wants to take that one on? Glenn, I'll give it to you.
Could you repeat the question, Murray?
Yeah, what's the application for AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning in rental, and what are some of the key uses or case studies or uses that rental is asking for in those areas?
Yeah,
such as in telematics, of course.
Yeah, I think we're at the very early stages of that. You know, the whole AI thing is really in its infancy on the ground. You know, of course, manufacturers are going away and spending huge sums of money researching and working and testing and developing, and but there's still a long way to go before it's mainstream. You know, I do think there's probably going to be a whole new level of integration between rental software and telematics when, you know, we start having self-drive bulldozers and excavators where there actually isn't an operator, and that's going to bring it to a whole other level. But I think we have a lot of other work to do before we get to that. It's not something I personally have a lot of experience in yet.
Do either of you want to say anything on that, Bengt and or Nick?
I mean, I'd agree with Glenn. It's not, we're not getting a great demand for it, but I can see, you know, there's going to be. This is about data, and it's about getting as much data as you can. And I think, you know, there needs to be maybe some thoughts about how you share data anonymously about certain things. OEM sharing data about machines and some of the information that comes out of machines. And then when you get the data then gives you much more chance of more accurate AI, machine learning, that then it's down to sort of rental software companies like ourselves to ensure we understand what that data is and where that fits into our interface to the right people at the right time. And they can then be driven by machines rather than driven by somebody identifying a problem. You know, if we take a breakdown sort of type scenario where it can predict that based on an OEM telling us if this happens, then there's a chance it might break down, that could then automatically be fed through to the workshop supervisor to make a decision on whether they need it. So I think it will happen. I think there's more data to be gathered than people trying to do it in their own silo, in their own business to try and do that.
Yeah, totally agree. It's kind of early, but there's a lot of situations where it would be useful with AI. Like even we're going to probably talk about some pricing as well, and these are, you know, there's so many things that can be done with AI, but it's still early phases, and it's going to be a lot of work with that in the future.
Yeah, we've talked about integrating different functionality within your software. Is that a challenge if you're using a legacy rental software system? Is it a challenge to add those new functions, especially if there's if it's mobile technology or linked to e-commerce applications? Is it challenging, Bengt?
It's not challenging. In our case, we are working primarily with APIs, and we can provide data points where we can send data, we can receive data, we can process and so forth. But it's I don't think it's a problem in that sense. But of course, if you have a lot of endpoints taking out and pushing in data at the same time, that might be an issue in the future sometime. But it's just for now, we're seeing an increasing demand for information from other sources in the rental software. Yeah. Glenn?
Yeah, for sure. Integration is in demand. You know, some of it comes from the equipment manufacturer side, where they've put in telematics systems and our customers want to integrate to them. Some of it comes from the compliance side, some of it comes from the regulation side, and there's always some bespoke integrations that are required as well. I think it's fair to say that, you know, as technology is changing just within the rental industry, technology is changing within the software industry as well, and we're having to update the platforms on which we're building our products as well. And as we do that, it gets easier. And, you know, like Ben said, it's all about APIs now, and pretty much all the software products have APIs available. Of course, from time to time, you still need to tweak some of them to get the right information going to the right place. But you know, as the APIs become further and further developed, it becomes easier. But for sure, there was a learning curve in the beginning.
Yeah, agreed. The sort of modern software development has made the systems more open. So you have APIs to allow integrations at different points for different functions and different pieces of software. The challenge it brings to a software company is that you know, there are different versions of software, both from the customer side. There are different versions from the product you're trying to integrate with. And as Glenn just said there, you know, best will in the world, they try not to change these things, but they do change. And it's the challenge for us is then making sure that all these different versions for all the different scenarios, you know, still work and can still be sort of supported going forwards. So that's always a challenge.
Okay. I'm going to ask some questions. We've got some good questions coming in. With much more data being available, but not all easily in the rental ERPs, how do you see software change in the near future to deal with IoT and big data? Bengt?
I think it's going to be like a necessity, you know, being able to extract data from other places, to build data cubes where you get data from different sources. So there's a lot of ways of dealing with big data, and but it's still not that. It's kind of early days still in that sense.
Nick, you want to answer that? Try that one.
Yeah, I think going back to what I was saying earlier is, I think the role of a rental software supplier is to work with the OEMs and work with the rental companies, because there's masses of data there, and it's understanding which data is useful and which data is not useful, and working together, sort of getting through this data, and then understanding where that then becomes useful in which process. And I think, you know, it's a bit of a repeat what I said earlier, but I think that's the key. Is there's so much that at the moment I think there's too much to look at, so probably needs to be thought about what's the next step. The initial step was you know, quite simple: locations, hour readings. They're all fairly straightforward and well defined sort of data coming in from telematics. But there's a whole raft of data out there, you know, not just from your own business, but from other areas, which, yeah, it's that collaborative approach. Again, I think, you know, we can help develop it, but we need, you know, to understand which ones are key for the businesses.
I do have some other questions coming in. So audience, we will get round to your questions. Don't worry. There's a few topics I want to cover with the panelists before we do that. There's been quite a lot of companies offering, if you like, mobile solutions, so disrupting your market, if you like, and paperless solutions, for example. Has that people focusing on the logistics industry who are moving into rental as well with paperless solutions, how has that impacted your business? Nick, start with you.
Yeah, it impacts us in a positive way, I would say, because I mean these solutions, they are more generic, as you say. They come from logistics or they come from other type of industries and are moving into the rental market, and they're good products, and it's opened the eyes, and it's enabled rental companies to see what's available in the mobile technologies. Now, we've had mobile technologies around for quite a while, but it's made us, you know, more agile in our development, making sure that we can now see some of the things that these other products are enticing the customer with. And then we can look to build those into our products. The benefit then we have at the end game is that ours is a rental specific mobile solution, which dovetails nicely in with the business processes. So ultimately we can have that overall solution. But no, they've positively impacted us by just making people more aware of what mobile technology can do. Definitely.
Glenn?
I echo what Nick has just said. You know, I think competition at any level is good because one, it educates the market. Two, it keeps you moving forward. And, you know, if any of our customers have seen some generic mobile solution for whatever aspect of the business, generally they're always going to come and ask us, hey, can you do that? Because, you know, their first instinct is to have it as part of their overall solution. And, you know, we offer lots of mobile solutions: a sales app, a delivery app, an operator app, a workshop app, and so on. But sometimes the customers haven't thought about actually implementing these things until they have seen it in someone else's hands, be that a delivery driver that came into their yard to deliver a machine and asked them to sign on a tablet. And that could be just that little thing that triggers their thought process.
Bengt, do you want to say something on this?
No, yeah, I think we're as software developers, we have a lot to learn. You know, from meeting competition is all good because then you have to keep sharp, and sometimes it makes sense to work together with such apps, and sometimes it makes more sense to use the rental software that we already have, and of course we can do stuff to make things even easier. So it's fine. We enjoy having competition, and it makes us sharper as well. So that's good.
Thank you. Can I ask you all about the impact of cloud computing? So there are new arrivals in the market, and companies who have essentially started as offering a cloud computing service. What impact has that had? And Bengt, stay with you on that one.
I don't think we've had much. It's not been like a big change for us. And our solution is actually also going to be deployed through the cloud as well. So and through Microsoft's shop. So I have kind of felt that that's been an issue. I think that the rental companies they're open to be, they want to be ahead in technology. So and again, that just makes us more that we have to be on top as well. So yeah.
Nick, what's your view on cloud computing? What are the to be honest with me, what are the advantages of a cloud computing solution?
There's a massive advantage of being in a cloud solution, and it depends on the terminology cloud as well, as because some people they want a cloud solution, some people want a different interface in terms of a web interface, and other people want the thing hosted and get rid of their servers. So there's the cloud term is used across a number of different things. So the benefits can be anything from I've got rid of all my hardware and servers to I have a cloud piece of software that is now across the board with all of the other users on that piece of software that I can deploy very lightly to end users via a web interface. So it's probably a bigger question to go into all the different areas of cloud in terms of how that how the benefits are of that. We find what I think I've found is cloud computing. It seems to have enabled over the last few years an easier entry to market for software developers. There's for sure there seem to be more people coming into the rental software market with products which are not at the level of the guys that have been in the market for 30, 40 years, because the functionality has grown over that time. But it does mean they come in with a nice looking product which maybe doesn't quite do everything.
But why is it easier to enter in that way?
I think the technology maybe now in terms of writing those types of bringing it out into a cloud environment with all the infrastructure. In the past, you had to have back-end servers and developers who understood all those things. The development languages probably were a bit slower to develop and get to market, whereas now there's many tools to get these things much faster to market, more people that understand it.
Glenn?
Yeah, I think some of the benefits of being in the cloud, are that your software is always up to date. You don't need to maintain the servers. Your system's always accessible no matter where you are. And additionally, if you're in the cloud, you can rely on your cloud provider to. You can rely on your cloud provider's considerable investment in hosting your data and keeping it secure. And some of our products are available in the cloud, have been for many years. Some of them we're working towards it. But I think as more e-commerce and online ordering and so on becomes prevalent within the equipment rental industry, there will be a further shift towards the cloud.
And you'll be ready for that shift in the sense that you'll have products to dovetail the solution?
Yeah, like several of our US products are already cloud-based. We're working on Syrinx 365 in the UK at the moment. That will also, or can be deployed in the cloud, or can be hosted locally. So we're definitely moving that way.
Okay, so we've been chatting for 15 minutes, and we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to try and get through some of these, and I'll just want to, in some case, I'll just want a quick answer from one person, and I'll kind of do it at random. Hello from Paris. What about the customer experience of automatic orders between a large company and a rental? We talk about punch out. What is the level of maturity in these processes? Does anyone want to answer that?
I think rental companies need to be there, they need to be relevant, and they need to be optimized. And by being there, I mean they need to be online. I think by being relevant, they need to display what their customers expect to see, the way they expect to see it. And being optimized, they need to be able to deliver what the customer expects, because if they don't, they will literally only be a click away from losing a potential customer. So the industry as a whole probably has some work to achieve that level of reliability, but many companies are taking steps in that direction.
Nick, sorry, did you want to say something there? Or not?
I'd say that, yeah, we've for a while now, XML invoicing or electronic trading via invoices through some of the hubs has been around. So that was one area doing it out the back end of the transaction. But more now we are seeing XML ordering, where you can take an order in from a variety of different sources that then auto-populates the rental system to take away some of the workload. And it means that the end customer can have a system that might be a procurement portal or some kind of way that they can procure the stuff more easily, that then automatically feeds into the rental software. So we are seeing that as a trend. Yep.
Thank you. A quick answer from all of you on this one. Do you think that, what do you think of large rental companies taking the developments of software themselves in order to have a quicker time to market? And Bengt, you can start on that one.
In general, I think rental software is it's very complex. I think it's sometimes underestimated when you meet customers that are or companies trying to build a rental software. I think they underestimate the complexity and how much work it actually is. And then you will have to have that company. Very focused on. They need to have the skill set for rentals and a lot of. I think it's complex.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And what we do work with some of the big rental companies in terms of building new front ends. So they may want to give a different front end, a different feel to certain user profiles within the business. But leveraging the power of the solution at the back end, because that's where we've got the power in the invoicing engine, the rate calculations, the utilization, all these things which are really quite complex development aspects. But the front end, allowing people to maybe change how they interface with that, is something that we've been open to, and we do work with, and we provide a variety of services to help with that where required.
Glenn?
Yeah, I noticed in your question you said because it's quicker to market, and I wonder, is it really? There was a time in my past when I was in the rental industry, I actually would have been in that school of thought that let's build things internally. But I don't necessarily feel that way anymore, and not because I'm now working for a rental software company, but I just realized that, you know, you set out with an idea to build a piece of software, but that idea is always evolving and changing, and it will never ever be finished. And there will always be things you will realize you could have done different, you could have added extra, and while you're doing those things, technology is changing as well, and you're constantly trying to keep up then.
You did a good sales job there, I think, Glenn. Convincing people that
It wasn't intentionally, it was just based on experience.
Yeah. Someone has asked, what about APIs between rental companies using the same software, or even between other softwares, you know, different software providers? Do rental software editors, can they work on common protocols? Does anyone want to take that one?
I can take it. It's certainly something that we've discussed with customers, and we discuss internally with our development roadmap, because it seems to be a natural kind of thing to do. Is if they're running the same system and they're doing business with each other, then that process of transaction should be able to be fairly automated between the two. Now, we haven't got any further discussions as we've gone through this, and I guess that's down to customer appetite. Maybe they've got other priorities at this stage, but I think that will definitely become something that will happen. Yeah.
Bengt or Glenn, do you want to have a go at that one, or are you happy with Nick's answer?
I agree with him. You know, I think it's something that will be. We will see that soon enough, I think. So yeah, I would think it's something that will come pretty soon.
Okay. I'm just looking at the questions. This is an interesting one. There's lots of interesting ones, but I'll ask this one. What kind of really pragmatic use of IA, I guess that means AI, would you like to implement in the next 5 years? For practical use of artificial intelligence in the next 5 years? Bengt?
Very difficult. I think, like pricing, for instance, that would be how we can build pricing based on a lot of parameters that we don't even think about right now. Scheduled maintenance, being able to see when, or even preventive maintenance based on the information that you get from both the location of the equipment, the customer that uses it, and I think there's a lot of those kind of things that we will see in the future.
Thank you. Nick?
I mean, I wonder if AI is going to, one of the other ones, it might come through things like fraud detection. You know, that it may find certain patterns that it can say, hang on, there's something here, through IP addresses, through unusual patterns of rental, through a new customer suddenly, you know, hiring a load of stuff to a certain location. As time goes on, there's going to be, I guess, there's going to be things like facial recognition and things like that, which, you know, is all going to become part of the data that you can use, and certainly would be a benefit to the industry if it can identify some of these fraud type businesses that get away with quite a lot of plant and equipment.
Glenn, AI within 5 years?
Yeah, that's a very, very broad question. I'd have to think about that one, but like Bengt, I would like to think it was something connected on the pricing side, you know, because that's just something I'm passionate about from my own experience. But I'd have to think about the specifics of it.
Talking about pricing, that was on my list. Dynamic pricing. Who is seeing dynamic pricing being asked for, and how long before it becomes a more common feature of the rental business? Bengt, if you could start on that one.
Yeah, we have already implemented dynamic pricing for some of our customers, and I think that's something that will probably be becoming more important in the future, you know, days ahead, pretty soon as well, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got clients who have dynamic pricing, and we've as software developers, we can make these things dynamic, and we can follow the rules that we need to follow for whatever the customer's criteria are and when the prices are changed. I guess the question is probably more in maybe in another webinar to the rental companies as to when they feel dynamic pricing is going to be something that's become relevant, because as you probably know well, there's a lot of framework agreements out there which are decided, and how do you then embed dynamic pricing? I guess you embed it into the framework that, if it gets hot, I'm going to charge you more for this, and if it gets cold, I'm going to charge you more for this, and those types of things. So that's it'd be an interesting question to see what the rental companies feel.
Glenn?
Yeah, I think it's definitely being talked about a lot more, and it's not dynamic pricing or revenue management systems are nothing new. They've existed in other industries for decades. But I think it's important to remember that any dynamic pricing algorithm is just like any other piece of code or formula. The output depends on the inputs, and while some of the inputs will be really obvious, there will be other inputs that will likely vary from one business to another. So a dynamic pricing algorithm can be as simple or as complex as one decides to make it. So I think the rental companies will have to lead on that one, on saying what they feel are the relevant inputs.
Bengt, from your experience, what does a rental company, what's the key thing a rental company has to prepare, or how can a rental company prepare properly to be successful in implementing dynamic pricing?
That was a difficult question as well. I think one of the main issues is the input. Like the algorithms are based on some inputs, and being sure about those inputs. It is. I think that's difficult as well. It's somebody has made those algorithms, and there are things that we don't know, and I think that's why AI will be more important as we learn more about it. How we can utilize that to do, for instance, dynamic pricing.
Thank you. We've been talking for an hour, and it's probably enough. We're over our time already. So I want to give you each just a quick chance to give us a hint, maybe, of some of the things that you'll be offering, maybe in 6 months or a year's time. Just a hint of what we can expect from you. Nick, you first, if that's not an unfair question.
No, that's great. Yeah, so going back to the resourcing again, we're looking to enhance that whole area. So we're going to cover things like external resources. Well, a lot of businesses have third-party partners who might provide transport and other services. So it's been able to control those resources through the product as well as our own resources. Further enhance customer relationships, which is always key, looking at what add-ons we can do to the CRM product, how we can improve the portals, the online interaction. Interestingly, we talked about there sort of the auto ordering from key customers and things, which again, that's something we've all got plans to do. The increase in real-time notifications. So that's something we see now is going to be more prevalent, whether it's going to be SMS messaging or whatever the mechanism is for delivery, because it's going to change. SMS is one way, but there's lots of other apps, and as we say, the generation coming up are going to be used to using other apps for that type of interaction. So yeah, basically, continue to provide the right tools to the right people at the right time. That's
thank you. Thanks, Nick. Glenn?
Yeah, at Point of Rental, we have several teams working on several different projects. A big one for us in the UK is Syrinx 365, which, as I mentioned earlier, will be possible to deploy in the cloud. Our global team is working hard on building out our global API, which will provide better communication between all our various different products and modules. We're adding workflows to our mobile apps so that our customers will be able to basically implement their own processes into those apps without any IT knowledge. And we have quite a bit of focus on the whole online ordering, e-commerce side of the industry at the moment.
Thank you. Bengt?
Yeah, we're currently in like this last stages of becoming parts of Microsoft App Source. So that's what we're working hard on now. We're also building like extensibility for our product so that our partners can make like local or or industry-specific add-ons to our software. And we'll add more Power App to make smaller functions even easier. And we're also looking at, or we're building an advanced rent management to have, like we talked about before, talking between companies using the same system and utilizing each other's equipment. So yeah, some of the things that we're doing. Great,
thanks to the three of you for sharing that with us, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon. It's one thing to have a set of topics you're going to discuss, but it's another when you're getting questions from an audience that you weren't expecting. So I think you've all done a great job. So Glenn Pearson, Point of Rental, Bengt Rotheim, Armada, and Nick MCS Rental Software, thank you very much. I know that there's quite a few questions out there that we didn't have time to answer. I apologize. I was doing my best to answer as many as I could, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to answer your question. If anybody wants to watch the recording of the webinar again, then it will be available to stream on internationalrentalnews.com within a few days. You should get a notification for that. And also, I would like to thank again our supporters today, Dingley, Lawson's Recruitment, and Machine Max. We appreciate your support. So thank you again to the panelists. Thanks very much to all of you for watching the webinar. And keep an eye out on internationalrentalnews.com and khl.com for news on the next webinar, which should be in September. So thank you again, and good evening.